Hello everyone, it's Anasika here, and today I'm going to be playing around with the Curiouser and Curiouser collection from Graphic 45, and I am making these large tags. And what I'm doing differently this time is that I'm creating a pocket on the back because I love adding dimension to these tags, but the lovely dimension makes the writing part ever so difficult. So let's just start by creating the tag itself. I've already die cut the tag shape using the coordinating die, and then I cut larger pieces to 7 1/4 and 3 3/8 inch. A smaller piece for the pocket that is 4 3/4 inch and 3 by 3/8. And then the tag itself that I created is 5 3/4 and 2 3/4. These measurements are not strict in any way, shape or form. It's just what I use to create this. So I'm just adhering the tag shape to the tag. And I love to use liquid adhesive because it gives me a bit of time to fix and make sure that I'm doing this correctly, and it is very forgiving. And when I finished adding these two, I am of course adding the larger piece of pattern paper using foam adhesive, because that's the whole point of these tags, is to add dimension and not to be afraid of how the writing part on the back of the tag affects it. I love that. It's like a worry-free crafting. Not that crafting is worrisome. And here I'm using a thinner foam tape. I believe this is 1mm. I'm not sure. I'm usually using a thicker one, but I decided to use a thinner one for this. So if I wanted more dimension, I could just double up this foam tape. And I'm just adding it here and there and just making sure that I don't have empty spot anywhere so that it will get all squished. And then, as you can see, I'm taking the backing off and adding it to the front of my tag. You could of course keep this section smaller or larger, whatever floats your boat, so that I get a little bit of dimension. Love that. Now I am actually creating the pocket, really. And I decided to use a 1-inch punch. And just punching once to pattern papers. Clever, eh? And I'm just using this to add a bit of a, I guess, ease of maneuvering, I guess. It just makes it look more like a pocket, really. And I'm rounding the bottom corners, just because the tag has rounded corners, and the base coat of the pattern paper for the tag front is rounded. Is of course not necessary, totally up to you what you do. And then I'm just using a 1/8 inch width of double-sided tape, and that way I have plenty of room for the tag. And this pocket is really, I guess, tight. You can't really add anything else to it, but then again it doesn't really matter, because my point is to have just a tag that I can write the sentiment on, and also it will stay put, because usually when I create tags I use this to add to little gift bags and such, so they do dangle a wee bit. So this way I am certain the tag with the message part will not get lost, or so to speak. And now it's the fun part. It is just picking out some of these gorgeous images and shapes in this collection. Oh, there are so many beautiful things. Love it. And I'm just rummaging through. I already emptied the bag itself because it's easier to look for stuff when it's in a bowl or anything like that. And I decided to use this beautiful frame as a focal point for this tag. And of course, as mentioned before, I'm using loads of foam adhesive because I don't have to worry about writing on the back. And just finding the place, and I'm not using a rule or anything like that. It is just an ish measurement of sort. And I just go with what feels right. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. No biggie. I'll just rearrange stuff. And like I say, then I'm doubling up on the foam here because I want this to be a bit higher than the frame itself. Just to add even more dimension, because I can. Then I just put this flower cluster at the bottom. And then of course I'm adding, you guessed it, foam tape behind that sentiment. Because I can, and it's fun. And that way it really becomes a focal point. So there's a bit more dimension on a tag. Because a tag can be just as time consuming to make as a regular card. And then I just stick that sentiment in the center of the frame-ish of sorts. Just trying to figure out where things look best or good or whatever. And you can of course add even more items to decorate a tag, or less. That's the fun of crafting and creating. You just do what you want to do. And I absolutely love these gemstones. Oh, these are absolutely gorgeous. Love them to bits. So I'm using this to add a bit of bling to the tag and add more interest. And like I said, the best thing is these are dimensional, of course. And again, I don't need to worry. Love that. And I'm limiting myself to using only 3 or 4 because I do have a problem with adding too much bling. But hey, it's a lovely problem to have. And then I have that smaller tag and I rounded the corners just because I think it looks cute. And then I cut this little piece from one of the 12 by 12 pattern papers, and I'm just using that to add a bit of interest to the tag. It doesn't have to be decorated as such, but I did want to add a bit of colour. Like I said, just a bit of interest, not to be too blur really. And I thought this was a nice touch, quick and easy really. Oh, that tag is 5 3/4 by 2 3/4 of an inch. And I just slide that into the pocket. As you can see, it's very tight and it stays put. That's what I love about it. Now, I don't plan to decorate the back of the tag much, but I do want to add just a tiny little bit. So I'm using the sticker sheet to find a cute little sticker that adds a bit of colour. And because they're cute, why not use them? And then all this tag needs is a ribbon. And I just cut this to, I think this is about 13-15 inches, thereabouts. And I just cut the ends and use a lighter to make sure that it doesn't start fraying or anything as such. Then that's the first tag done. Yay! And now for the second tag. I did the same thing as I did before on the other one, so no point showing you all that again, boring you with those details. But here I'm adding one of the tags from the Chipboard and Frames package to be the focal point. And these 3 flowers or flower dies, guess shapes, sorry, are from the Ephemera pack. And I'm just adding a bit of dimension to these little flowers. And you can use any tool at all. This is some kind of a pick moving tool, something. You can just use a pencil or whatever. And I'm just rolling these edges to make them more dimensional. I guess lifelike. I don't know if it's lifelike or not, but I think it looks pretty. That's why I do it. And of course I'm using foam adhesive on that chipboard piece. Yes, because I can. Love that. And I'm just adding that to the front of the card. Just somewhere where I think it will look pretty. And I do love this sentiment. If you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. Such a good advice. Love that. And I'm adding foam tape to the back of these flowers. And those gemstones just are begging to be used, so I just have to. I'm using that for the center of these flowers because they're so cute. And then I also wanted a bit more action or images on the front of this tag. First I thought it would be the clock, but then I was like, nah, it's too much. And then I found the butterfly and it's perfect. And I'm using the same technique to make it a bit more dimensional. Just manipulating that paper a wee bit and adding a bit of foam tape on the wing sections of the butterfly to just help it keep its shape, and adding liquid adhesive in the middle, and that way it will be more dimensional, like, I guess. I think I'm saying this word dimensional quite often. Sorry about that. And I'm just basically pushing down the center so that the center of the butterfly is flush to the front while the wings are in a dimensional mode. And yes, I am adding a bit more sparkly bits to the back because I can. And then I'm just adding the tag as I did in the previous tag and adding a decorative piece. And then I realized, no, I need to have it the other way around, otherwise you can't really see. I guess you can see what it says. It just made sense to me. So I decided to have the text going down instead of up. But of course anything works, really. And that is the tag almost done, just adding the ribbon to add the finishing touch, and of course a wee bit of sticker in the back. So I hope this little step-by-step project was helpful, and hopefully you're able to use these gorgeous tags even more than you did before. So thank you so much for watching. Until next time, bye!